Newing? Oh my god, I'm so excited for this video. This is a perfect science experiment video, great comparison video in the sense that there's one thing that's been changed. So this is great, So, there's two beers here. They're both from Gorilla. They did not sponsor this, but it is essentially brought to you by them for the simple reason that they've made these two beers. Now, I mentioned this in my top 3 breweries of Korea video ages ago. It was over a year ago, I think. And yeah, New England IPA, New England IPA. This is an ale. Now they've released this, and they've changed one thing. They've changed the yeast. And so this is, again, a perfect opportunity to talk about yeast and the differences between. So there's 2 basic types of yeast. There's the ale yeasts and the lager yeasts. The lager yeasts are called Saccharomyces pastorianus. You'll notice the name Pasteur in there. Louis Pasteur, the guy who invented pasteurization. And then there's Saccharomyces cerevisiaris. And you'll notice the word cerveza in there too, which is Spanish for beer. So essentially, ale yeasts ferment a lot warmer. The variability here is big, but generally speaking, it's 18, 23, 24, somewhere in there for ale. Lager yeast chill a lot cooler than that, or ferment a lot cooler. We're talking 8 degrees, 10 degrees, 12, somewhere in there. So much, much, much colder. And the basic difference when you're drinking the beer is, at a warmer temperature, the ale yeasts produce esters, which create the fruit flavors in beer, which, especially for a New England IPA, is super, super, super important. Saisons too. And lager ones, they ferment a lot cleaner, and they can eat more different kinds of sugars. So this is very interesting in the sense that we have New England IPAs, styles, but with one that's going to really bring out the fruit flavor in the beer, and one that's really... I've never had one of these. This is my first cold IPA. So another reason I'm excited for this. So I'll try and contain myself. But because I haven't had this before, we'll do the one that I've had. Let's just, because they go over the actual ingredients on these two. So pale, carapils, wheat, oats, flaked oats. Pilsner, wheat, carapils, flaked oats. Okay, so they've used a pale malt in this one and a Pilsner in here. So the malts aren't quite the same. The hops, again, cold IPA, Cascade, Mosaic, Brew 1, Cryo, Citra, Amarillo. Lots of variability there. And in this one it says C base of can. And I tried to look this up. There's obviously Nelson Sauvins in here because there's an NS. And then it says PC something. And I tried to look that up. I'm not sure what that is. But then, yeah, they use a house yeast for this. So this is the Gorilla yeast that they use for their ales. And then this one uses a W3470, which is a very common lager yeast. So, again, let's pour this. And we'll do a little color comparison, too. It's a pale... Jesus. It's a pale malt. So it shouldn't be too dark. Alright, so this almost has a fluorescent-y kind of hazy, it's not quite green, but it's yellow, but there's a bit of that fluorescent green nuclear plant thing going on. We'll do smell next, but first. Oh man, yeah, you can tell the difference right away. This looks like, fuck me, look at the, this is so much hazier. And, you think that was because of the yeast. A pale malt and a Pilsner malt aren't really going to have, massive differences in haze, you'd think. Because they're using malted oats and flaked oats in both, too, so. Alright, so. Very tropical smell. Oh, so juicy. And this, just buzz of hop. Bing! Like an electric tingle of the hops. This is a little less juicy and a little less, crazy than the one I had a while ago. That could be because this is from February. I should mention that, too. This is from February 28th. This one is brand spanking new. This is May 6th. Well, it's 2 months, but still. Alright, I've never had this. This is my first cold IPA I've ever had in my life. Even the smell. Yeah, this one comes right out, right up your nose. I can't talk today. Ip your nose. Anyway. Yeah, there's this richness, fruitiness to this. And this one, it's more full too. Fuller even. God, I'm really curious about this now. The color and the smell are just... Wow. It's much maltier. Like right away. Even if they hop the shit out of this, doesn't matter. Way maltier. There's a nice kind of like honeyness to it without that annoying honey flavor that you get. But this nice kind of like sweetness to it. It's not sugar, it's not bready at all. This is very much... The carbonation's much higher on this one. I feel. No, they're about the same, but it's much finer on this one. The bubbles just seem much more velvety and smooth. This one is much more like summer, bubbly, not harsh in a bad way, but you can feel the bubbles. They like pop almost, and there's less of them. They feel more like burning your throat, like a Coke, right? A Coca-Cola has that kind of like burn to it. That's awesome. Yeah, maybe, God, the hops are so much like cleaner. Is it the malt? Maybe it's the hops creating that sweetness, like perceived sweetness, right? Wow. Interesting. I'm trying to think which one's more drinkable. Because they're so similar in so many ways. There is that like nice drinkability to them. The hops are like, the taste is similar. But like everything else isn't, which is creating this giant juxtaposition in my brain, yeah. Because when you think of food or like drinks or anything, taste comes first most of the time. And because these are so hop heavy, that's what's remaining similar, but everything else is different. Visually, this expectation from the smell, the carbonation's different. This one, like I said, the malt comes through, but it's... Sorry. Very bizarre. Food pairing, barbecue ribs. Food pairing, barbecue ribs. Awesome. Serving temperature, 5.5. Okay, so actually, what's the alcohol percent? They're the exact same too, right? Yeah. What the fuck? This one has a higher OG, but it has retained more of its sugar. I guess because of the lack of esters, like I suppose one of the big things with the flavor is the dankness, right? Which we say, anyway. Yeah, like the flavor's the same. This one just goes down. Maybe it's just less like exaggerated? Yeah. This one, the aftertaste too. Oh, that's another thing. Yeah. This one's like way cleaner, which again, for a lager is to be expected, but I should mention, yeah. This one is very much like, wow, oh wow. This one's like sip and then like, okay, wait, whoa, hold on, yeah. I still taste it now. It's been like, what, 8 or 9 seconds? This one has much more of an aftertaste to it. Not even a bad aftertaste, but that hop, vegetally plantness to it remains, which, again, is not bad. It just is, yeah. Very interesting. If you can find... I mean, obviously, comparing these ones would be optimal, just because they're the same brewer in the same facility using, I imagine... If not the same recipe, but, you know, they're going to have their way of doing things, right? But if you could find a cold IPA with a lager yeast, and then like a New England IPA, you know, with it says ale on it, let's say, definitely give that a shot. This is obviously the optimal one because they're the same brewery and the same recipe even. The labels are almost the same too, other than the color. So yeah, but do that. It's interesting to kind of single out two beers that are the same except for that one very specific thing, like a yeast, right? It is interesting to kind of play, because, you know, you could take 7 different beers and do a video and compare them, but what would the point be, right? I have a Saison from France, and here's a British Porter, and here's, you know, one from California, and they've dry hopped like, 60% of the weight of hops is dry hop. There's no point in comparing those beers, not really. This is great. This is such a good experiment to do. So if you can find even 2 beers from the same brewery that are maybe a little similar, I'm trying to think of other examples. That's why I'm so excited for this video, though, is because this is the perfect example of, you know, one then the other. All right, cool. Anyway, well done, Gorilla. You've made me kind of think about that as someone who wants to brew more. Interesting, yeah. Anyway, cheers. I have 2 more beers to finish. I have just poured the remnants of the can into both glasses. So you can see, I mean, this one was hazy before, but holy shit. Like this one, it got a little bit of yeast from the bottom of the can. Now, this could be the brewery's doing, but I imagine this is probably just the brewing process is doing. This one, God, I mean, let's put my hand behind them. I'll give you a little example. You can kind of see my hand. Yeah. Any light's not going to change what you're seeing on screen there. With this one, yeah, of course, you're going to see my hand come up, yeah. Holy hell. Anyway, cheers.